This episode is made possible by New Masters Academy, the world's absolute #1 online art school in the entire world. Click the link down below for a free 7-day trial. Thank you, New Masters Academy. I am deep in the annals of your mind. I am deep in the annals of your... Hey everybody, welcome back to the Honey and Absinthe After Hours Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Vincent, a background designer for the Hollywood animation industry.
And I'm Janet, the ex-Disney artist turned independent creator, and this is a podcast about all things art, business, and whatever we feel like.
Now today, Elon Musk buys Twitter. Recession is inevitable, and is a red wave coming?
But before we get into it, make sure to like, touch, and jingle all our bells and buttons. Please and thank you, it really helps me out.
Ooh, midterm election is upon us. But before we talk about that, hopefully look out this Friday. We have a new song coming out. It will end up on Spotify and our music page, which you can find down below. God willing, because we're finishing up things right now. Yeah. Always last minute. But good to see you, everyone.
Good to see you. You look great.
Whatever, they look great, beautiful, whatever, you look great. But today, as you can see outside, it is snowing here in Prescott, Arizona. It's the first time I've ever seen snowfall in my life. Like, I kid you not, this is the first day I've seen it. And I was like, oh, look at those little puff balls falling from the sky. And then, like, when I went outside and I tried to, like, you know, do the whole, like, oh yeah, I'm under the snow, I was like, this is like frozen rain.
It's cold.
It's cold and it's wet.
It's not fluffy.
I thought it would just like be fluff. But it's beautiful.
So this episode, we're going to recap a bunch of news that we have neglected talking about. We're focusing more on culture, but we decided elections coming up. We might as well talk about all the things we've been kind of holding off on talking about, all in one episode.
All in one big episode. There's at least 7 topics here we wanted to turn into an episode. And we're turning into a big ol' episode. Just for you. The only artist on the internet talking about nonsense stuff like the midterms.
It matters. I think it matters. Some of it matters. So the first topic we're going to talk about is Elon Musk buys Twitter.
Oh, Elon Musk buys Twitter. Why is this important for people to know about right before the election? Why is this important?
So Twitter is kind of like the social media outlet specifically for news and journalists. Most of the people on Twitter are hyper-political. It's this hellscape where people like to go there to get angry and argue with each other for some reason. And it's like Batman and Joker. Both sides need each other to exist. I actually think everyone kind of enjoys the outrage, even though they feign like they don't. They feign like they're super angry.
Oh, we're not going to lie that it's enjoyable to watch. People go at it. Come on.
But I think the people going at it know exactly what they know. The other side is the Joker to their Batman, because everyone thinks they're Batman. Because Twitter is kind of like the news, so social media, people claim that Twitter and the media by proxy have been censoring and manipulating politics, U.S. politics.
Ooh, let's go back in time to when did they censor the New York Post story about Hunter Biden? 2020.
Yeah.
I remember that day vividly, and I was like, holy shit. Twitter and Facebook just fucking disappeared a story. And then it was conspiracy for the longest time to say Hunter Biden was a crackhead who has a thing for hookers.
Yes.
Some of you might be like, oh, how dare you, that's shocking, that's outrageous. It's true.
Truth, yeah.
It's true. It's true at this point.
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh, it's fake news, and it's just like, oh, see, this is modern politics. This is our modernity, you know.
There were a lot of people who they came out after the fact that when they found out that Hunter Biden, the laptop scandal happened, they probably wouldn't have voted for Biden. So, like, it's hard to argue that the censorship didn't affect the the election and stuff like that. So, Elon Musk this is like, there are different stories on why he decided to buy Twitter. But as the story goes, he saw the Babylon Bee get banned off of Twitter for, I think, posting about
Elliot Page. Yes.
For making fun of Elliot Page being Man of the Year or something
and
like
Babylon Bee, if you don't know, is sort of like, gross oversimplification, conservative the onion.
Yeah, it's like Christian onion.
Christian the onion.
Yes. So he gets mad. He makes a joke about how he wants to buy Twitter for, I think, $4.20. I think on 420. I'm not sure if he announced it on 420, but he signs the contract, tries to back out of it. Twitter sues him and forces him to buy it, so he buys it. And now Elon Musk has Twitter, and all the leftists in journalism media are freaking out because they think that, oh no, now they are going to be censored because Elon Musk is a crazy rightoid person, alt-right person, and he's going to like ban us off the platform or censor us and do all this stuff.
So you were there the day it happened, eyes glued to Twitter. What was it like? What was the temperature like?
A lot of journalists, leftist journalists, were freaking out. And claiming all those things, like, oh, that he's going to censor us, he's going to ban us. And then I guess a lot of right-leaning people were like, why do you think that? Like,
you immediately go to that.
Yeah. Like,
is it because you do it to other people?
Like, yeah, it's classic projection. Yeah. Like, why do you think... Like, that's such a misunderstanding about what the people on the right want. Like, I think Elon Musk... on his first, like, I am CEO now, message to everyone.
I am
Twitter.
the captain now message.
Yeah. Which every CEO does when they take over a company. They have some, like, rallying, like, hurrah, we're gonna do great things kind of messaging. He's like, he's prioritizing free speech. And it just shows a complete lack of understanding of what free speech means by the people, these educated journalists were like, oh, he's gonna censor us, he's gonna ban us. So I was like, why do you think that, when he straight up said, I just want... And he even, like, he keeps kowtowing or, like, compromising with them, being like, free speech doesn't necessarily mean, like, any speech. Like, there are still going to be, like, some limits. Like, you can't just say really hateful random things on Twitter. Like, that isn't really allowed in free speech to begin with.
There's also this thing where Elon Musk wants people to pay $8 for a blue check mark now, so that there is no more kind of ruling class with the golden medal that has precedent of opinion over other people. And I assume you're gonna get algorithmic priority, especially if you post regular. Yeah, if you pay, which is kind of cool. Ooh, that's really exciting. That's really exciting.
And it simultaneously solves the bot problem, because, like, very rarely are people going to pay $8 per account just to, like, get priority and verify. Like, I would
do it for the algorithm, man.
I would do it for longer videos. Like, there are other benefits you would probably get when you pay, like the ability to post longer videos and audio clips. You get priority. You probably get access to, like, tools, kind of like YouTube will have, like, analytics behind the scene to see how well your post does, and
you could be part of, like groups where they try out new features.
Yeah, or stuff like that. Yeah. Like, I think I would prefer if Twitter just became a better platform, because right now it really is, like, when I go on TikTok, I genuinely don't think anyone who isn't into news, meaning any young people, are actually on Twitter. I think they might be, maybe to connect with friends or whatever, but, like, For the most part, Gen Z likes using Snapchat. They like using TikTok. A very small, select group of people in the world, in society, uses Twitter because it's a very specific niche thing for people to be interested in. And I'd prefer if Twitter was a more interesting app, the way YouTube is, the way TikTok is. Simply, like, I really doubt it could exist for very long after this year if someone doesn't really change things about its business model. I really want it to pay people. Like, it'd be really cool to, like, actually bring value to the space and say stuff, and then you get paid.
Yeah, Jan, it's all about the passive income. So if she gets to run her mouth and get paid for it on the internet,
I'll be posting on Twitter like crazy.
Oh my God,
I'll be saying all the things.
Elon Musk, you gotta pay us, man. You gotta pay us.
But right now, I just don't care that much.
I see.
So,
but because of this buy, there's a lot of stuff that's been found out that Elon Musk found out about with Twitter behind the scenes, Argawal and got in big trouble because they were kind of like colluding against the whole thing, right?
They were colluding with the federal government to create special portals and access to help the government censor and manipulate the public.
So some of the stories include the pullout of Afghanistan, right? That's one of them. What's another one? And it's been happening for like, it's the past 2 years type of thing, basically with the Biden administration.
I would assume it's been happening, but it's confirmed for the past 2 years at least that the government basically, so that it's technically illegal for the government to do this on their own, but the way they're getting around it is by making the social media companies do it for them. Which, like, what's crazy is we saw the ACLU basically come out and like denounce it, which this is like so bipartisan. Like, everyone is kind of upset by it. It's like, hey, we don't like the Fed coming in and like doing stuff to our brains using social media and like disappearing stories, or in my opinion, most likely making you more outraged than you really should be. And I feel very right. Like, it was a conspiracy. Like, this was considered a conspiracy theory for the longest time. That like, they're shadow banning people, or they're like they're manipulating
the news or articles or whatever, and they're like disappearing accounts and things, or suppressing your account for whatever reason.
Yeah. But now it's pretty much confirmed that the government does that to you, and that should be very alarming. That is very alarming
for everybody.
Yeah. And like, for them to like we probably described before, it feels like they can just turn on the faucet of outrage and turn it off whenever they feel like it. And that is really upsetting, because I've seen it, like, certain stories come out, like we talked about this, BLM stories, abortion stories, those like certain really triggering stories conveniently turn up like whenever it benefits certain people. And it just feels like I don't like being manipulated by anyone like that. Like, and so our advice for you to go outside and touch grass and to live your life and like not be manipulated by the whole news system on either side was so accurate.
Oh yeah,
it was such good advice.
We saved your brain from programming by the United States government. Man,
we took you out of the matrix.
We took you out of the matrix by going back to nature, dude.
Yeah. I felt like I took myself out of the matrix when that episode when I was like,
we stopped for a while, and then we look at like all the outrage with such a new lens. Like, this is like, oh, you're just trying to get like people huffy and puffy right before an election, or you have literally nothing to talk about, so you're gonna talk about that. Like, how many times have we seen like headlines where you're just like, you're gonna talk about that? Okay.
So it just feels icky. It gives even more reason for people to not take social media very seriously, and news and journalists. Like, it's so sad. Like, I wish I could go back to being like a kid again and like actually believing in these institutions. Now it's like naive if you really believe, or if you're okay with the feds basically poking around in your brain and going like, if I push this button, what will they do? If I push this button, what will they do?
Oh, this button makes them really upset.
Oh,
let's keep pushing that button.
No. So that's what's happening with to the Twitter media landscape. The leftists are freaking out. AFC is freaking out because of this man buying Twitter, which, if you're not part of Twitter, it's such nonsense. Like, if you're some kid who like looks at TikTok all day, you like, oh, the adults over there are fighting about some nonsense again. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the recession.
Oh, no.
So it's getting bad. Really bad.
Every day Janet talks about the recession, or listens to somebody talk about the recession, and then I go, wow, is it really that bad, Janet? Is it really that bad?
It's pretty bad.
Oh, no.
So the technical thing is the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates by 0.75% pretty much every month-ish. They're going to take a break between now and December because they want to wait and see. But pretty much every month they've been raising interest rates. What this means, if you have no idea what that means, is basically they're trying to slow down the economy. They're trying to make it harder for people to spend money, to buy houses, to get loans, and this includes business loans. So this will affect people and businesses. And when the businesses are affected, your jobs are also affected. So the job market is going to start slowing down. The higher the federal government basically tries to hike up the interest rates.
What's really interesting is, I think the last time we talked about this, the Fed was trying to like encourage the normies to start saving money instead of spending money, right?
Right, yeah.
And now we're at this point, right to this recording, the Fed is finally happy with the normies kind of taking the hint of, hey, something's wrong. Eggs cost $7. Maybe I should save money and not spend it on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But now the Fed is looking at corporations wanting what from them?
Wanting them to basically stop hiring. If anything, to lay people off. And to start for them to start saving money, to start tightening that belt.
Why is this important to the Fed?
Because if you haven't noticed, inflation has been going crazy the last year. It went as high as, I think, 10% earlier this year. So their goal is to try to get inflation down to 2%, which is normal. It is not normal for it to be 9%. That
seems a ways away to get 9% to 2%.
Yes, because they've been raising interest rates basically since like late spring, early summer, like May-ish. Basically once every year. Once every month. They keep raising it a little bit, and unfortunately, inflation just kept that like 8% level, just kept doing it. So recently, it started to come down, like it's down to 8%. So they were like upset for the longest time. All throughout summer, the Fed was kind of upset because they're like, why isn't anyone taking the hint? We're raising interest rates and you're still spending, you're still hiring, the labor market is still really great. This is not okay because this means inflation is just going to keep going up and up and up. So now that it's started to slow down and people That basically the temperature of the economy is that people are starting to get the hint. I don't know why it took $7 eggs for people to finally get the hint. Like, it took a whole year. I have been saying this since, like, literally
in your rap song.
Yeah.
Inflation.
Last year.
Yeah.
But like I predicted it in the New Year's episode that inflation and recession is coming, and like no one behaved that way until recently. Like, it feels like people are starting to be like, okay, I don't have money to just spend willy-nilly. I'm scared I'm gonna lose my job soon, all that stuff. And the Fed is very happy to see people are like starting to save, and the economy is starting to be less good. Which is like nuts. It's nuts
crazy.
to me.
Yes, it's crumbling. This is great.
And we've reached a point where the people in charge, like Biden, the government, that just so happens to be Democrat right now, they've stopped denying it. Because if you remember, because you don't you gaslight me. You remember at the beginning of the year, you're like, what inflation? What recession? We don't have record high inflation. And I'm like, you think I'm dumb? You think I'm dumb? The gas is like double the price in Arizona. I don't even know how expensive it is in LA right now. I'm scared to check.
I don't want to know. Because I worry that's how it's going to be here
one day. Soon.
Yeah.
They, for the longest time, Biden was like, we have like the best job market in like history, and like we have a great economy. I'm like, okay, so like you want I don't like how people conveniently forget the amount of gaslighting the government does to us. And then now they're like admitting it. They're admitting that we're in a recession. So I saw a recent, I think, speech or something that Biden did. Like, yes, we're in a recession. All the Republicans are saying we're in a recession, and they're blaming all these things. But you know what the real reason is? Iraq. I mean, Ukraine. That's exactly what he said. That's exactly...
Janet's not mincing words here. That's like, check the transcript, man.
That wasn't a mistake on my part. Like, he literally said that. And I was like, okay, let's just assume the recession is because of Ukraine. Guess who got us into this whole conflict with Ukraine? Just like this government can't take responsibility for anything.
Accountability for anything.
I was like, okay. And then even when
the things that we did, it's not our fault.
Even when you tell me that, let's say I just believe you, okay? How does that help me? You are the commander-in-chief. Do something. Do something. Just telling me, oh, it's because of some random war I have no control over. I'm like, I don't care. Excuses. Like, I don't care. So that's happening. They're predicting that it's going to get really bad recession-wise after the election, conveniently. And then it's going to be exceptionally bad in 2023. Like, literally, everyone is predicting on every side, all the companies, all the stock brokers and hedge funders who have billions of dollars are predicting that 2023 is going to get really bad. They're finally saying recession is coming in 2023. I'm like, bitch, recession is here. What are you talking about? And it's a little upsetting because I already know how this is going to go.
How is this going to go?
Because I find the reaction from the people in power right now, meaning the Democrats, really suspect. It's not like they're not fighting the whole idea that recession is coming next year, and it feels like they're going to blame it on the Republicans.
It's very fresh on my mind how hard the Democrats fought in 2020. Man.
Yeah.
I like inundated with commercials, ads on Instagram, Facebook. It was just like everywhere. You couldn't unsee it. And now it's like, yes, there are some like, badges and stickers like, it's time to vote. But it's just like, it's all the temperature's very mellow compared to, if you could think of every election cycle for the past 2 or 3 or 4 of them. It's
a very half-hearted attempt.
Yeah.
For, like, do some of you even know that there's going to be an election?
Yeah,
like,
some of you know.
Like, it's so quiet, and it feels like a half-hearted attempt, like, I'm kind of obligated.
Yeah, and if you think about it, all the hubbub about the election is coming from the right.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we're going to cream them. This is going to be great.
Yes.
But then it's all quiet on the front of the left. And Janet believes it's because they know they're going to lose. They're going to fucking get trampled on, and that's okay with them.
Yes.
Because what they get to do next year is blame everything on the Republicans.
Yeah. So now let's talk about the election and how, now that we live in Arizona,
wow,
our take on all the news, because there's a lot of election news.
What does it feel
Arizona.
like to be in a battleground state?
It feels like voting actually matters to people. Like, being in LA, most people vote going like, it's probably gonna like go blue. Like, it's like we know the result of the election.
It's just like, why bother, man?
But here it's like, wow, it's like the first time I actually don't know.
Things.
Yeah. Don't know
strange.
what the outcome is.
Yeah. What do you think? Red or blue, the state?
Probably red. Yeah. Because, so specifically where we live, there are an amazing amount of political signage on every street corner.
It's so sad because the arts community tries to like, this is our play, it's coming out. It's like buried behind like Carrie Lake, vote for Blake Masters, all this stuff everywhere.
It's egregious.
It's a lot.
Crazy. Like,
it's
this
insane.
Quaint little cute town that's really like kind of aesthetic in my opinion. Very like what was that town called in Back to the Future?
Hill Valley.
Yeah, it's very just...
It has like a square and everything.
Very historic.
Idealistic.
Very idyllic.
Right.
It's just signs.
Just signs.
Little signs everywhere. So, yeah, and then, like, we noticed this when we first moved here. Every Sunday, on a very specific street corner, there are, like...
Iron Springs Road and something.
A bunch of people standing on the corner... waving their flags. Yeah. Going, wow.
Like Trump flag, Gadsden flag, going, and then people honking and all that stuff.
And like, this is literally every Sunday. Like, it doesn't matter if anything is happening politically. It's like almost like church for them.
Yeah,
like,
it's a community event.
Yeah.
I bet they have like a Facebook group.
We just sit there in their like camping chairs and like,
woo! When Trump got fucked by the FBI, they fucking went out into the streets and were like, what was that? He got raided at Mar-a-Lago. That thing. They went like the Preskins went out and were like, Wah! Do you ever wake up in the morning frustrated by the political system, feeling like everything is broken and unfixable, and thoughts of hopelessness and despair fill your mind? You know what gets me right and ready to just take on the day and not worry about all that junk that doesn't really affect me? You know what gets me through the day? Coffee brand coffee. Coffee brand coffee gives me a ripe kick in the ass to do really good work and work really hard for my employers.
If you would like 5% off your entire order, enter code honeyandabsinthe at checkout. Link down below.
Enjoy your enema, people pleasers.
But, like, at the same time, like, it's really amazing to be in, like, a purple state because there are certain areas that are, like, super liberal, too. Here. Yeah. Like, there's this bookstore that has, like, we don't tolerate, what is it, like, racism or something signs everywhere. And so, like, it really does feel right. Like, people
the colleges feel very, very liberal.
Yeah.
But all the, the influx, just, like, heavy density of older than 50 plus people. Just make it feel really like just kind of what you expect from a small town, you know?
It feels more tolerant than LA.
Right.
Like the fact that both types of people can live in the same city and like coexist, and like there are no problems, there's no fighting, there's no yelling, there's no I don't know what people expect. That's typically a city thing, which is ironic because it's typically blue cities. And so I'm like, who are you fighting with? I don't understand. But here it's like very like, you can believe whatever bullshit you want to believe, and I can believe whatever bullshit I want to believe. Yeah.
Man, I wish it was like that everywhere, man.
I know. But there have been a lot of Arizona stories in the news. One of the biggest one recently was a bunch of Arizonians, MAGA people, were watching the voter boxes, the drop-off boxes.
If you don't already know, there's a lot of mistrust with the election system here in Arizona.
Yes.
Especially in the past few elections, a certain county has been known to cause a lot of problems.
Yes. So some MAGA type people, and they make it a point to be like they're armed.
They're armed. They have guns.
Honestly, most people in Arizona are.
Yes. Like I remember just like having noodles in,
like,
in Prescott Valley, and there's just like open carry people, and just like, well, it looks like no one's gonna fuck with this ramen place.
Yeah. It's just like you mean an average person who lives in Arizona.
Yeah.
And they're like watching it to make sure like there are no shenanigans going on.
And then the media and the left have been like, this is intimidation, voter intimidation. They're tampering with the election. It's just like, if you've known anything about anything for the past like 2 to 4 years, the gall of them saying that, you know what I mean? The gall, man, the gall. And this is often what we notice. They always like accuse the other side of doing something that, you know,
they are doing.
Yeah.
So I just saw the reaction from, you know, media and the leftists who were like, I'm scared. People with guns are watching the ballot boxes, whatever it's called. Typical behavior, like, oh, I'm a victim kind of behavior. Right. And of course they're going to use whatever like small thing and being like, oh, I'm being attacked. But I had a problem with specifically Tim Pool, Civil War Tim Pool, saying like, this is, I don't know, Civil War.
It's a sign, man. It's a sign, man.
And
this is it, man.
So my reaction to that news of like people watching is just like, this is just such Arizonian behavior. And especially hearing that it's specifically in downtown Phoenix.
It's like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's like the division down there, man.
Yes. So, I don't know. TikTok knows everything about me, apparently. It's listening to me in my sleep. But I keep getting served TikToks that have things to do with Arizona. Everything from like best cities to live in to like
food.
Yeah, random stuff.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I get served like funny, sad TikToks recording people in the streets of Phoenix. And there was one where they were joking about like, why is every Circle K like a little Call of Duty like what's it called?
Map,
yeah. A Call of Duty map. Like they're like zombies everywhere, like crackheads everywhere. It is not safe. I saw this one where like the kids are like sitting after like some kind of either concert or like a sports game, and then you hear shots firing somewhere, and those kids are just sitting there and they're like, whoa, was that a gun? And then like there are people like running away from the sound, which or hitting the floor, right? And which is like the normal thing to do when you hear gunshots. And the kids are just like, oh, I think it's going on over there. it's just like Phoenix is crazy right now. Every big city is crazy right now, and to me, it's like I don't know why like people think. I don't know, Antifa are gonna like show up and like fight with these MAGA people who are like are armed and are guarding the ballot boxes, but like that's not
the MO of Antifa.
And it's also, well, it's not the MO of Arizona. Like people here are kind of used to being a purple state, you know, like people aren't that angry over each other's political beliefs here. They might like to pretend to be online. I'm sure there are lots of older people here who like to like yell at cloud, but then like when they're in front of us, they're like, oh, I don't want to like rock the boat. But I genuinely don't believe that civil war is going to happen because I have left the chronically online space, and I've gone outside and I've touched grass and I've talked to people, and I can coexist with people who believe different things than me. And the temperature is just not that hot. It's just not that like we don't actually want to kill each other. It might seem like it if you're online way too much, if all you do is consume Twitter. But I don't believe we hate each other on that level in real life. You know, I don't think we're going to like go to war with each other like that. Also, I think we wanted to talk about Carrie Lake specifically. I remember, I don't know why, a lot of people are like really into her and like the MAGA Republicans, but
the MAGA Republicans are the ones that are endorsed by Trump, basically.
Yeah, they typically
which are like they're kind of winning like crazy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them took seats already.
But they are considered. These are all the things that they would accuse them of. They're election deniers. They won't accept if they lose, stuff like that.
Oh my God, you're on YouTube here in Arizona. You're just incessant like Carrie Lake, anti-Carrie Lake ads.
And anti-war, which is like nuts to me. Like the Democrats being pro-war and accusing Carrie Lake of being anti-war as if that should upset me.
I think they criticize her for wanting to lessen government spending
on like military and stuff. She's very I all of that fine. I don't know that much about her. I don't know that much about. I believe I don't know anything about the politicians except for what they want me to see, and so I don't trust anyone. I have bad feelings, let's just say, about her, because I was once watching, I think, her talk about something on mute, so like the video was playing but like the audio wasn't playing, and I just was like, man, she gives me Hillary Clinton vibes. I think, like, I don't trust people who are too good
on the camera.
At speaking on camera and tell me all the pretty things that they think I want to hear. Maybe this is just my lack of trust in government, period. I don't, like, people think we are alt-right, but actually, I just don't trust anyone and anything, and I hate everything. It's just I don't like how some people, especially on the right, are like really propping up certain people, because I'm like, I don't know, man. I think anyone who you decide to vote in are just gonna disappoint you, because they always do, and it's not.
Florida wouldn't say that about DeSantis. That's such a bummer thing to say.
That's my honest worldview right now, though.
I guess, yeah. All right. I can't convince you not to see the world that way, I suppose.
No, that's how. See, I used to be very naive. I used to be very much a default liberal.
Used to believe in the justices.
Yes, I used to believe in the government and the media, and I thought people were good and just, and now I'm like, everyone sucks. Yeah, that's all I have to say about Carrie Lake. I don't like how people, as a response to the annoying bad behavior of the left, are now going straight the opposite way and putting too much faith in people like Carrie Lake. I think it's a mistake. I think I will always I have trust issues. I do not trust any of these people to do anything for me because they have no incentive to.
But more annoying than Carrie Lake are Carrie Lake's opponents. So
yes,
I wouldn't be surprised if Carrie Lake wins. That's all. Her opponent. All of those ads against her, I'm just like, what is this?
What is this? Confused.
Yeah.
They already are announcing that Katie Hobbs won.
Yeah.
And this is Thursday before the election, right?
Fox is announcing this.
Yes.
What is going on?
Fox Phoenix. I'm like, fantastic. On the point, on the whole election thing, and how like I'm not sure if people even care about politics anymore. I know like people who are really into politics and news and are typically older adults probably are like, of course we do. But no, I'm talking about like most people are not into news and are not into politics. I think it became really cool to have a political stance in the past decade or so. So people who know nothing about anything just want maybe the woke points or the social points. They want to be like, yeah, I am pro-choice, I am a good person, and oh yeah, like it became sports and it became entertainment and it became cool to have a political opinion and to stand for something, like the getting down on one knee thing and
getting paid big bucks by Nike
to represent a righteous movement or something. Right. Now I just don't feel that anymore. Like I'm not sure anyone who gets down on one knee now can get a Nike deal, you know? Like I don't think that's gonna happen anymore. And maybe it's my own bias from watching a lot of TikTok, but I've started noticing that comedy is coming back.
Not just any kind of comedy. The comedy we were raised with.
Offensive comedy.
Yes.
Certain things that you would have never been able to say even a few years ago, people are saying now. And young people are saying now, meaning like they don't feel scared to say it. In fact, I'm noticing people are actually getting social points for saying things that might not have been politically correct a
couple years ago.
Yeah. So I saw, I don't know why this has been like making the rounds on Twitter, but like not TikTok. A lot of mixed race people have been talking about a certain phenomena that's been happening on TikTok specifically for them. They are usually half some kind of white and half some kind of person of color. So like there's one instance where I saw this girl who's Creole. She's on her mother's side, I think, is French or French Native American. And then the other side, her dad is black. And then she shows her entire family and just how like mixed race she is. And being in growing up and living in Louisiana, she adopts like certain mannerisms. So she speaks as if she's black. Because she is, for one. So then a lot of people were like calling her like bad baby and being like, stop pretending to be black. She was wearing a bonnet too, which I didn't know was a problem because I just assumed she had curly hair. Like I was like, isn't this just to protect your hair?
Or when you're too lazy to do your hair, you put on a beanie, right?
Well, it's specifically this thing you wear to like protect curls.
Oh, I don't know anything about
It's
this.
a woman thing.
Never mind. Keep talking, sorry.
So they're like, because she's like, to a lot of them, white passing. But to me, I was like, she might be paler, but like, she's clearly not like 100% white. Like to me, if she didn't speak the way she spoke, I would have assumed she was like Puerto Rican or something. But like clearly still not white. And I was just like, that's really racist. You don't know. You don't actually know what she is, but like to just assume. And then she made this TikTok in response, and she was like, you guys are like awful. You don't take the time to go look at my page. You don't see like I show my family. Like
this isn't something that she hides or anything. She makes it very obvious.
And then she's like annoyed. She's like, well, I don't like that I have to prove to you that I am black. And like, I'm not. And then in the comments, you'd think that she would just get canceled. She like mixed race people just aren't allowed to exist to leftist people. And you'd think like, oh, was it like white people calling her out or whatever? Like, no, it was everyone. It was like people of all races being mad at her for like pretending to be black, according to them. But then I saw the comments of her response, and everyone was like supporting her. They were like, oh, like if you know, you know, you live in Louisiana, you're Creole, like we don't have to explain anything to them or whatever. There's another instance where this guy, he's like pretty famous on TikTok for making Indian jokes, because he's half Indian, half some kind of Eastern European. And when I look at him, I go like, oh yeah, you're totally Indian. But for whatever, again, really kind of racist. Like, just because he's slightly paler, people think he's white, but I guarantee you, white people look at these people and go like, you're not white. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird to me that you also to just...
Do you want to segue into room 237?
Sure.
So the thought of like white people can tell when you're not white.
Yes.
Somehow is connected to room 237.
So if you haven't watched it, it's this like documentary on
people's wild theories about the movie.
About The Shining. Yeah.
Kubrick's The Shining.
There's this one pretty famous theory that The Shining is not actually about The Shining, and it's about the Native American genocide. So
You're laughing because it's so far-fetched to you when you watch the movie, right?
Yes.
Okay. You're not laughing at the genocide, right?
No.
Okay,
yeah, I'm not laughing at... Yeah. I just think like it's called production design, guy.
It takes place in kind of Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Not too far from Arizona,
yes.
right?
And if you've been here, there's a lot of Native American stuff everywhere. It's just part of being in this like Midwest Native American area. It would be weird to not have Native American tapestry to decorate your hotel. That's very like this is just how this area is.
If the interior of the Overlook looked European,
yes, it would be
wrong. As any production designer would go like, this is Colorado.
Yeah, like all the people from Colorado would be like, this is wrong.
What the fuck is this?
This doesn't look like the hotel it's based off of. So I was like, guys, it's called production design. They did research. It probably looks like this.
And they always go like, Kubrick was a guy with an IQ of 5 billion. So he must understand about these atrocities and is trying to like communicate something subliminally through the production design. He met with advertisers to learn how to do this kind of subliminal messaging with images.
Yeah. So like that's whatever. He can have his weird Native American theory. But there's one scene I found very like shocking. So what's his name? Jack, right?
Yes.
He goes in
Jack
for the interview. He sits down with this very presidential looking owner of the Overlook Hotel to interview for the job of being the caretaker of the hotel for the winter. And next to him sits the assistant to the big honcho man. So the critique person, the person with this weird Native American theory, was like, so the big head honcho guy, he's very presidential. He's very like classic, like white, all-American dude. And then the assistant, he's kind of darker, not exactly white. And then I was like, what? excuse me? As a minority, this person just straight up looks white to me. What are you talking about? He's slightly darker. He's like 5% darker beige. I was like, these professors, these extremely liberal white people, do you see nothing but race? I was like, no, this is so kind of racist. Like, you're suggesting something here that is like really racist.
He almost suggested that the Overlook owner is like the president, and the other guy's sort of like the silent G-man fed, like overlooking the thing. And I thought, that was cool. But then he
brought in race.
And then he just brought in race out of nowhere. Like out of nowhere. And I was like, wait, what does that have to do with anything?
And he represents this, like all this racial stuff. I was like, oh my god. So I was just like, I've heard this before. Like, other mixed race TikToks have talked about, especially when they're very white passing, that like they don't fit in anywhere because like a lot of, for example, if you're Asian, Asians don't consider you Asian, and then but like white people don't consider you white either. Like, it's this weird phenomenon where like they'll just go out and then random white people will accost them and be like, you're not white. I'm just like, no way they do that. But then like that's their experience, and I go like, yeah, I think white people can tell that you're not white. But,
but sort of like the Filipino thing, where like when a Filipino sees a Filipino, like, oh, you're Filipino.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like the opposite. Like, you're not white.
Yeah. So especially like I guess I can tell too, because like when I see someone who's very white passing, but they clearly have like slightly more Asian features, or they're slightly darker or whatever, I go like, oh yeah, they're probably something. But it's none of my business, you know. What do I care? I don't think about it like that. There's
oh no, here we go. I knew you were gonna bring up the story.
Oh god. I mean, okay, so when I started working, my group of coworkers, okay, very diverse cast of people. There was one particular guy who was clearly some kind of mixed Asian and white, probably. And I just was like, growing up in LA, that really just doesn't matter to you.
An LA person looks at a foo and goes, that's a foo. That's some guy.
Yeah, like
that's some girl.
In my opinion, I'm so used to seeing lots of different races. I don't really care, and I don't really care to ask either, because it doesn't mean anything to me. They had to like ask him the question, "What are you?" And then he made, I'm sure he gets asked that all the time, so he made like a snarky joke without really answering the question. And then they do the thing, no, but really, what are you?
Like, it's not good enough. You need to answer the question, or else these questions in my mind will eat me alive. And I'm like, what does it feel like to feel that way? Because I have no idea. What does it feel like to really, 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 really want to know somebody's race? Because I don't really give a shit.
And as an aside, the person who was asking this was white, and everyone else who was not was in my opinion, in my own head, I was cringing really, really, really hard. I was like, no. Why are we having this conversation at work? So like I had my own experience with this. Like, even I don't know why people also do this to me. Like, I was asked this at Comic-Con once, like, what are you? And this again was like a white person, and I'm like, I'm Asian, and they're like, but what are you? And I'm like, what do you want me to say?
I'm a Chinese.
Yeah.
Is that what you want? I'm a Chinese. Like, what do you want?
Because I already skipped past, like, I was about to say I'm American, but then I was like, I probably want to know I'm Asian. And then he was like, no, that's not good enough. I'm like, oh my god. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I don't know why. Oh, so in general, people were like joking about all of this on TikTok, okay? They're like, it was, I don't want to like butcher their jokes, but like the guy who makes like Indian jokes, he was like, so I want to talk in an Indian accent because guess what? I am Indian. And I'm not just like a white person making fun of an Indian accent. And he was making like these semi-offensive race jokes that like people were just like really like applauding him for, and I was just like, man, comedy is coming back. Yeah, you're starting to be able to say certain words that you would not have been allowed to say a few years ago, and I was just like, man, I think being woke isn't cool anymore.
This is a post-woke world, man.
But it's not as simple as saying being conservative is cool, because that's not the case either. There are certain people that I know to be extremely liberal, had like the BLM donation thing in their TikTok bios and stuff, that are now coming out and being like, why is everyone's personality just being woke? And like kind of making fun of like overly woke people who need to like prove that they're woke. But they're very woke themselves. It's not that being conservative is cool. It's being like not caring about politics is cool.
And it's not like the conservatives did anything. It's just simply this is where the culture's going.
Yeah.
It's a shocker of shocks. We're finally at this point where even the Gen Z can see how fake and disingenuous the whole woke thing was.
Yeah. It's become more nuanced, and how, in my opinion, it always should have been that, like, okay, like, if you really care about these issues, then prove it. Don't just, like, I don't know, do the black square on your Instagram thing. And
don't do what's easy.
Think that means anything to anyone.
Right.
So I think that's really good, actually, that people are starting to not care so much about politics and in certain ways the election, because at the end of the day, none of us can do anything about any of this going on, other than just know that it's happening, be aware, but also being like, it's all like, and it's all bullshit. And I think it's so hard for people to get people to care about the election, and this is like this crazy thing that I saw happen. I was checking my bank account. Every time YouTube pays me, I make sure I get money. And I saw a random $700 deposit into my bank account. And I was like, what is this? So I Google it, and it's the middle class tax refund thing, specifically for Californians.
But you registered as an Arizonian.
So in last year, for last year's tax, what's it called?
Return?
Tax return, yeah. So if you were living in California for at least 6 months last year and you qualify for this middle class refund thing, you're gonna get money, just random money out of the sky, paid for by taxpayers. And I was just like, wow. Right before the election, they just drop $700 into your lap and go, vote for me, I gave you $700.
And basically did the school pizza party thing. Yeah, pizza party, come on, yeah, you're gonna vote for me, right? Sausage pizza.
I just thought that was amazing. Just the more you know, just so you know, that happened to get people to vote. How is this not bribery? It's like legal bribery. So the next thing I want to talk about is COVID amnesty.
What is COVID amnesty? COVID amnesty.
Some lady wrote this article in The Atlantic titled COVID amnesty, and how like we need to give people COVID amnesty for overreacting about COVID.
What does COVID amnesty look like? What, like forgiveness?
Forgiveness.
Oh.
Forgive them for overreacting and doing what they thought was best at the time. And like clockwork, the right lost their minds over this article, because it does sound ridiculous when you think about what everyone had to put up with and all the conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. For example, you can say now that COVID, there is the lab leak theory, and it's most likely
not a theory.
Like that's how It wasn't a wet market. Or
didn't somebody from Pfizer say something?
Oh, they said that like the vaccine doesn't prevent transmission.
Oh.
It just helps you not get sick as much, and that's what everyone has been saying for the longest time.
If you said that was like,
oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theory.
Unpersoned.
You wanna kill grandma.
Right.
So like people were bringing up like, you locked the old people basically in solitary confinement and made people's lives miserable.
You were this close to making COVID vaccine passports a thing.
Yeah.
This close.
But people just were lazy and didn't care enough.
Yeah. And kept breaking the rules, basically.
You ruined a whole generation's mental health and education because you kept them from socializing and going to school, even though now we know that school transmission was barely a thing. Lots of people lost their jobs, lost their businesses because they were reported by Karens that they were still doing business or like not social distancing enough. People were yelled at in the street, and like some crazy people took advantage of the situation and became like crazy Karens. So like the list goes on. Why COVID amnesty sounds really ridiculous to some people, because like sure, maybe some of you didn't do or anything all that much. You just like put on a mask, like, oh, why can't people just put on a mask? But for some people, their livelihoods were lost, their family members were lost, there were some tweets and articles about how some of the right people are dying because they don't follow the rules or stuff like that. I'm just like, it's awful. I think it's in poor taste to wish bad things like that on anyone, no matter your political, like that's awful. And so people were like really mad about this whole idea of COVID amnesty to the point where it's kind of cringe. They're saying things like, never forget what they did to us.
Okay, Braveheart.
Never forget.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think that's the point. I think the point of the article was to gaslight and to make themselves look like the victims somehow. Like they're trying to act like the morally superior, taking the high ground stance where they're reasonable and rational, and in a weird way doing the thing where they play the victim. They go like, oh, we didn't know, we were just doing what we thought was best, so that you, when you are triggered and you go insane by like, what do you mean doing the best? You wish death on us. And when you freak out, your freak out looks crazy compared to their like, oh, but we were just doing our best. We're logical thinkers. We trusted the science, all that stuff. That way you look like the bad guy. You look like the crazy person.
When you go like, oh, never forgive, never surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah. You look a little nutty compared to the people simply trying to be like, oh, we were just trying to save you.
Yeah. And which is like the classic non-apology apology. We're just doing our best, trapping you inside your homes and making you lose your job and all that stuff, and like shunning you from society, calling you a conspiracy theorist even though everything you said was true. And it's just like, oh yes, thank you for admitting all the stuff that you did wrong, thinking that was what's best for everyone.
Yeah, and I think as a response, and like you can hear all the beating drums that like this election, you know, lots of talk about red waves or no red waves, red tsunami, whatever. What I can tell are that people are simply just really, really fucking angry, you know? And like if they're gonna vote, my gut tells me it's a vendetta vote. I think people are gonna vote to make people hurt. People are voting to make people lose their positions in power because they got fucked really hard for the past 2 years, especially after being promised that things are going to get better. They did not get better. things are not better than they were 2 years ago.
Right.
Things are worse, you know. And like I can just I just feel like there's a lot of animosity towards government, and like this is the first time since 2020 where people get to, you know, really speak their piece with their vote. And this time I just feel like we talked about with the lack of temperature raising, that like I feel like there are a lot of angry people heading towards the polls, and like a lot of stuff is on the ballot, man. Like the number one thing that the Democrats don't want to fucking talk about is the economy.
Yes.
And no one seems to want to talk about the economy and how expensive things are getting, but like that's what's on the average person's mind. That's number one. Then there's like education. People are worried about all the junk that they're teaching their kids. Yeah. And then there's just the list goes on and on. The censorship stuff, how censorious and overpowered the government, colluding with social media, is. Like there's a lot of stuff on the ballot. For us Hollywood people, we have to make this junk, man. We have to make this junk, and that's on the ballot for us. Do we want to make more junk about, like, you know, telling people what to think about with their kids and shit? Yeah. Like, I'm sick of that shit. I want to make cool cartoons again, you know? So
you think there's going to be a huge red wave?
I think there's going to be a huge red wave, because I think I can feel the animosity and the anger. But it's not like this, like, I'm going to hurt people anger. It's just like people finally go, like, I feel like looking at this election going like, this is my chance to like take out all this pent up frustration I've had with not being able to do this, losing my business, for whatever reason, the COVID stuff. This is my chance. And like already we're seeing like hints from the political landscape that like people a lot of Republicans are taking seats. Right. And like you could only wonder why, you know, when the Democrats don't have like a word about how to fix inflation. What the fuck do you think people are going to do? You know?
Right. Well, for one, I don't think it's going to be as big of a red wave as people think it's going to be. I think historically it's supposed to go the other way, because when whoever's in charge, you blame them for whatever bad thing that's happening, regardless of if it's actually their fault or not. But that's just how people perceive it. That's what people don't like to admit about being a CEO. It doesn't, like, there's a lot of responsibility to being head honcho and the boss man. And you have to, whether it's warranted or not, you have to take responsibility for your successes, but also your failures. Mm-hmm. So I think naturally, people are always going to be dissatisfied by the president, no matter who it is. So by the second year, and then go like, I don't know about you.
You promised this, you didn't follow through. Yeah, that type of stuff.
And the reason why I don't think it's going to be as big as people think it's going to be is because I have now learned my lesson, and I have very, very low opinions of the average person. Because I kind of treat the average person as dumb as people who work in animation.
When you reduced it to that, I was like, oh man, how can we not use this filter on reality, man?
Yeah. Because like that's my worldview, you know. Most of my life was growing up with these people, and to think that people outside of animation and Hollywood and all that stuff are any better, if anything, they're worse, or just exactly the same. And to see people just like rationalize whatever's happening to them, or just simply not care unless it's hyper specific to them. So, for example, I've been saying for the longest time that streaming is a really big problem because everyone who works on a streaming show is paid a third less than on a network TV show. And the way things are going, most shows are going to be streaming. It's just the natural course of things. And when I would say this, only the people who work on streaming shows would give a shit. The people who were on network shows are like, oh, that's never going to happen to me. And I'm like, okay, your lack of foresight is amazing. And also your lack of empathy for your coworkers is amazing. And I like, until literally till today, where like most, like what I predicted way back when came to fruition, and most shows now are streaming shows, and most people are affected by this dip in wages, and like this cancellation of all these streaming shows all of a sudden like means that you're all of a sudden out of a job. Now people actually cared. Now people are like people who I know for a fact a few years ago were being like, oh, that's never gonna happen to me. Like, I'm on a network show. I'm big, fancy. I'm so powerful. I'm so much better than that person working on a stupid Netflix show. Now is like out of a job, or like, like we need to fight for higher wage. Like, where was this? Like the last union negotiations, like and the wages have not gone up substantially, even like this past negotiation. I'm just like,
they barely did.
Yeah, barely.
And they were like really patting themselves on the back. We had a increase of wages that comes nowhere near to matching like how bad things are out there.
Yes, nowhere near. Yeah. So if anything, you didn't get a raise, you got a pay cut. So and then just judging by the way people perceive the reasons why things are bad for them in animation is just amazing. Just everything is not their fault. Everything is everyone else's fault but theirs.
Oh my god, when I see the behavior of government, I see it in our industry. Yes. And I go like, oh my yes. god, it's everywhere. No one takes accountability for anything. It's no one's fault for anything.
They just plug their ears and go la la la, and just like they refuse. Like, just like how I'm just shocked that people did not open their eyes to the whole recession and inflation problem till November. Till November, I was just like, they're the same. These people are the same. The average person is like that, and unless you I mean, there are exceptions, like the rare amount of people who pay attention to media on either side. I don't care. If you, for whatever reason, you want to vote for Democrats, for whatever reason, I don't care. If you pay attention, good for you. But like the average person does not. Just simply plugs their ears and does not care.
The average person watches She-Hulk.
Yes.
Which is made by the people we're talking about. Right.
Yes.
Right.
They're the same. They're all the same. Yeah.
They're the
so
same.
I simply think if it's not put in front of them and it doesn't concern them, they just won't vote and won't care. And so I'm just like, I don't know. I think people are getting all hot and bothered over nothing right now. But I do believe in my heart of hearts that this weird lack of fighting for their seats, the Democrats are, it feels intentional. It feels like, again, they don't want to take accountability for what they know. Everyone knows this. The bad economy is coming next year. They don't want to be responsible for it, so they're leaving. And then they get to point the fingers at the people new in office and being like, oh, it's your fault the recession is happening, because I think they know full well that the average person is only starting to pay attention, only starting to feel it in their pocketbooks right now. So by the time the Republicans are in office, they're gonna be, it'll feel
like it's their fault.
Like it's their fault, yeah. So they can be like, see, right when they got into office, suddenly there's a recession.
And then I was like, oh, come on, don't you think people aren't that gullible? Like, come on, don't they understand that like this was here for a while now? You think they're honestly going to believe that?
Yes. I am like, I really see people are opening their eyes to the recession right now. Like, wow, since when were eggs $7? I'm like, it's been slowly creeping up for the, like, how are you blind? I don't understand. You just not paid it. The statistic that most Americans live paycheck to paycheck. They don't budget. In fact, the average amount of credit card debt that an American has is like I think upwards of $10,000, something like that. Whoa. And so I'm like, you really think these people pay attention to the economy? You think they pay attention to their own bank accounts? No, I think they had to see that $10,000 of credit card debt increase to like $25,000 before they're like, my monthly amount I have to pay on my credit card suddenly increased by double. I wonder why. Like I don't think.
Best not to think about it.
Yeah, I don't want. It's scary. Money is scary. I don't want. La 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 la. I straight up heard one of my friends, partners say that once. Like, money is scary. I don't really like to talk about it or think about it. I'm like,
oh no.
Excuse me, but you have to. You don't have to, but it would really benefit you if you did. So another thing too, I was thinking about the people that we worked with, and I think a lot of millennials are still like default Democrats just because of the way we grew up. And I don't imagine them voting even though like the economy is really bad. I don't imagine them voting for the other side. They would never. I think they would just not. They would just be like, there's no options, so I just wouldn't. But also the people who would vote for the Democrats, unfortunately, I was like, none of the economy affects you, does it? All you people in Hollywood, you get paid enough where like you can ignore it. You can be like, well, gas prices are up, energy prices are up, food is up, everything is up, and I can't afford. No, they can afford it. They can afford everything. Maybe a little bit less than before, but they're not really affected by all of this. And I was just like, wow, the people who vote Democrat are extraordinarily privileged, to use their terminology. The fact that like you're not hurting,
you don't feel it,
you're not complaining about it means you're okay. Means you can handle the inflation. And you're saying you think that what will the Democratic Party be from now on?
Oh, I think I'm really curious to see what the demographics are like, because I'm curious if the Democratic Party is going to turn into the rich white party. I think the Democratic Party was known for a long time to be like the party of the Browns,
yes.
The party of the Browns, and I don't like being part of any fucking like group just because I'm brown.
Right,
you're not gonna default me, man. You're not gonna put Vincent in a box, man. And I feel like a lot of people are feeling that. You're not gonna put me in a box, man. I'm gonna think for myself. And a lot of people, like you've seen a lot of people complain all over the country about the gas prices, about the price of groceries, anywhere between from like, the poorest of the poor over there in that state to the richest stock trader. Everyone's complaining, no matter what color or spectrum you're really upset by this. But if you are a really privileged person who like just wants to plug their ears and makes enough to like afford to not worry about anything, I think you're totally gonna vote like Democratic.
Yeah.
And I think you're totally gonna be like, I can deal with this. Why can't you?
Yeah. And that's the amazing...
It's the amazing part.
Narcissism and lack of empathy and ability to think beyond themselves that, like, maybe other people have
I can do this. Why can't you? What?
Circumstances. And for them to think so lowly of, like, economic strain, to be like, oh, yeah, I would totally give up some money and to have harder times, so... for other issues that are far more important. And like for a lot of broke people right now, they're like, what issues are more important than
my pocketbook?
Like, what's going on? Yeah. What are you talking about? Because like I guarantee you, anyone who's like struggling to put food on the table or just lost their job or all that stuff, they're not being like, oh yeah, totally, abortion is more important than my job.
Exactly.
Like no.
Exactly.
So what does this mean for Hollywood?
But we'll see. I don't know if it's going to happen. Well, like that's kind of like the Democrats becoming the rich white party is so like, oh, that's so ironic. I want it to happen so badly. But like you're right. I got to think of these are like the animation industry people, and like
they don't care.
They don't care.
They're just not going to vote.
They're just not going to vote. Right.
So
now we're going to talk about what we think the election will mean for Hollywood.
Yes.
Janet, why does the election have anything to do with Hollywood?
I think people who pay attention to culture and just like us, like we like, it's not like a conscious choice. It's something I just notice when I notice, for example, noticing that people are saying more offensive things on TikTok. Like I just notice it and I take note of it. It's not like, oh, I'm writing this down for my podcast or something. I just notice it.
Janet's partly on TikTok to understand the human condition, right?
I am an alien and I do not understand why humans behave the way they behave. So I like observing humans behave the way they do.
And like TikTok's like a fishbowl to you.
Yes. It's like, oh, like I learned so much about like relationships and how women think and how the dating scene is, and just like, oh, that's fascinating. I have come to realize I'm basically a man. I do not function like women do, and I think like this upsets me because I'm not trying to be like, oh, hashtag not like other girls. I am genuinely upset that I don't have other female friends, too many of them.
Because you don't have those feminine qualities.
It's like when dogs and cats meet each other and they don't know how to communicate. Like, women try to talk about certain female-centric things with me, and I don't know how to reciprocate.
Yeah, like for example, cats talk with their eyes.
They blink.
And dogs talk with their
tails,
bark
yeah.
or their tail wags. And then I remember our cats met our friend's dog, and our cats just kept blinking at the dog, and the dog just what I assume our cats thought was like mad dogging them, but I thought stared blankly at our
He
cats,
was like,
going
what
like,
are you doing?
Well, hello.
Why are you
doing the things that you do?
Yes. So
and that's like you and other women, basically.
This is me and humans in general. Women and men. I know, like, why do you do the things that you do? Apparently, this is like an autistic trait, but I've never been diagnosed, so I don't know. The reason why this may kind of relates to Hollywood and content media in general is because if you don't have a good sense of what people believe and feel, and you don't have like a pulse, it's really hard for you to tell stories that are relatable for people. So that is kind of the reason why I think Hollywood movies have been landing flat on their face with a lot of audiences, because they're kind of outdated. People would say, go woke, go broke, it's a bunch of woke garbage, whatever. I think it's just simply outdated, because I think a lot of the movies that are coming out today in 2022 should have come out in 2021. Like, proof of this is, like, we recently watched Halloween, the Halloween Ends movie, and there's this moment where, like, you flash back to present day, and usually when they do that, they have, like, the date the movie came out.
Yeah. Why not just say 2022? But in the movie, it was 2021.
Yeah. So that, to me, is like, oh.
And there was a passage of time in the movie too. So like,
right.
For me, in terms of the story, it wouldn't have made a difference either way. You know?
So it maybe they forgot to change the graphic or something, but like, this movie was supposed to come out last year. Why didn't it? Because of that, lack in ability to do production during the past 2 years. And I feel like they used maybe the latter half of 2021 or early 2022 to finish up and then put it out. And so that's why I think so many of the movies that we've watched this year feel outdated. It feels like they're talking about issues that we used to care about, that you can say like just woke people used to care about, but like people in general would have just dealt with it a few years ago. Now it just feels incredibly like tone deaf and like, who cares about this anymore? And my assumption is that all the and we've noticed too, Hollywood has been pushing movies to 2023. I don't know why they think waiting a year is going to do anything. And
surely they're going to watch movies in 2023.
Yeah, for whatever reason. But like next year we're going to be in a recession. It's going to be even more outdated in terms, now that like we know that these people are becoming post-woke, They're becoming like more nuanced. Like, they're so tired of being virtue signaled too.
Yeah, and FOMO is not going to work on them just
No.
because there's all this hubbub behind a movie. You're not just going to like get people to watch a movie, especially next year when people are probably going to tighten their belts. You know, you got to give them a good reason to go to the theater.
And I think there's this huge backlog of movies that should have come out in 2020, 2021, but couldn't because like they needed, I don't know, the last few months of shooting or something. So they're taking this year and to maybe finish it up, and then they're releasing it in 2023. So I expect 2023 is going to be a really bad year for a lot of woke movies, because I think the floodgates are going to unleash. They're like, let's just try our best to make our money back.
We're going to make our money back.
And like just put it out there. Because it's, I think, wrong to assume that the heads of these companies care about the woke issues. I think they're business people. I think they go with the flow. I think they're very good at being on the heartbeat of like culture and where it's going.
What better way to know where the culture is going than knowing the results of the election coming up? You know?
Yeah.
Should they put more money into the woke stuff, or should they take out money of the woke stuff?
Yeah, I think they will do the business decision that is right for them. But the problem is, the decision they're making right now in 2022 isn't going to happen for a while, for at least 2 years. They're gonna have to greenlight the things. They're gonna have to make the they're gonna have to make the movie, make the content, and then they're gonna have to market it and then put it out. So I don't actually think things are going to get better in 2025 until 2025. But it's not like these execs don't know it though. Like, I think they're already making moves right now to do that, because I feel like we're already seeing it with a lot of layoffs, with a lot of the movies that do feel like they were made in this post woke environment, like Emily the Criminal and that kind of stuff. It feels like they're aware. Of course they're aware. They're aware that Top Gun just made a lot of money, and they're aware that Spider-Man made a lot of money. And one of the things I think is going to save Hollywood is for them. This is like a me opinion. This is not a Vincent opinion. This is me. I think they need to start courting Gen Z.
Oh no. No, I think they should court us, the millennials. Yeah, because we got the money. But I think I ultimately was like, oh, they're gonna just get both of us, because that's kind of how it was. They got like a 2-for-1 deal with the Gen Xers.
Yeah, I guess,
when they were like doing the Marvel thing.
My reasoning is because I can only be biased and go with what I want to see. And as a late millennial, cusp millennial, I am sick and tired of seeing all the people that came up that were meant for us to relate to still acting in roles that are meant for like early 20-somethings, late teens. So for example, like the Andrew Garfield of the world, all the people of Harry Potter, like a lot of the like Jennifer Lawrence, like we've been seeing these actors in every single role. And there hasn't been new talent in a really long time. And one of the things I think is really easy to get Gen Z is like they just need some people to relate to. Like, why would they watch old Andrew Garfield? You know, like why would they watch these like old Tom Cruise? But they will watch people who they can identify with, like Miles Teller's characters and Glenn Powell's character and Tom Holland and Zendaya, and like that cast of characters. At least they have someone to like latch onto. Like they need their own version of Harry Potter. Like it doesn't have to be Harry Potter, but they need like their Katniss, you know?
Yeah.
People who were made for us they're trying to like make movies and get people to care. But like to me, millennials are old and they're busy and they are dead inside. I really think like you need to get the younger crowd to come out and care about movies. And why should they if they're not for them? and they're not made with like, we haven't had new talent in Hollywood in so long. I love seeing someone like Glenn Powell being just,
becoming the next Matthew McConaughey. Linklater, man, where is he from?
Or like watching X and seeing
Mia Goth and Jenna Ortega, and going like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, I even noticed Jenna Ortega in her smaller role in Scream, and I was like, dang, that girl can act.
Yeah.
Like when she's getting stabbed, she like looks like she's getting stabbed.
Like I don't care if you get Cate Blanchett in your movie. I don't care if you have like Jennifer Lawrence. Like I want to just see a good movie, and if anything, I'm really tired of these faces. And I know what to expect. Like, I want to see new people, and I think Hollywood knows that. And I think Hollywood is like grooming these actors and actresses right now.
Ones that we haven't heard of yet, I'm sure.
For like to be the next group of kids for Gen Z to identify with. And then also, let's talk about Terrifier for a second.
Janet Chan, what is Terrifier?
So, it's like a very gruesome horror slasher movie, I would say.
It's pretty awesome.
It's an indie movie, technically. And so, like, I first heard about it on Dan Murrell's Charts with Dan show. I think the second weekend, it was the first time I've seen a movie make more than the first weekend. Usually you're used to seeing like big comic book movies go from like a certain amount to like a 60% drop off or something like that, and they make less money. But this movie made more money through word of mouth. So then we went to see it, and it was fun.
It was a lot of fun, guys. Like, we watched almost every horror movie. We watched that awful Pray for the Devil movie. Worst horror movie of the year.
Bad.
Officially. Worst horror movie of the year. Oh, so bad. We watched The Barbarian. We watched, what else did we watch? Halloween.
Yes.
We watched everything we could.
Yes.
But there was nothing more fun than watching Terrifier 2.
Yeah. We were like, this is what we wanted.
A little long in the tooth sometimes.
Yes.
But very, very, very fun to watch. Highly recommend.
And
good fun for the family.
It's an instance where, like, I feel proven right. That, like, Hollywood needs to invest in horror movies. They need to invest in, like, no-name people. And they need to, like, keep the budgets low. And just give people what they want.
Because people will watch it, man.
Yeah. I guess to get into it, Terrifier is everything you want a slasher movie to be. I think the kills are creative, but it's not like revolutionary in terms of like, it's a slasher movie.
I think a lot of horror movies especially these days, are trying to do the elevated, I want to be classy, I want to be taken seriously, like Robert Eggers or Ari Aster.
Yes.
But like Terrifier is like, God, it's just like the ethos of horror movies of yore, man. Just like tons of gack, ridiculous kills, blood everywhere.
I was saying, like, I noticed this pattern of like the movies we like and the movies that do well financially, because it kept getting it apparently it had the old school model of release, meaning it was in a limited amount of theaters. If it gets a bunch of word of mouth and it seems really popular, then they'll release it to more theaters and then more theaters and more theaters. So it kept making more and more money, and I was like so happy for this little indie movie, for the writer and director. So hopefully there'll be like a Terrifier 3, or for him to like be able to like make crazier, better things. It's just really fun to see a little indie movie do that. And like, I don't think I've ever really seen that happen especially to an indie movie in my lifetime.
And that's significant because, like, you know, a lot of people, like the I wouldn't consider the movie market to be healthy right now.
Yes.
But to see a movie like Terrifier really make it out of their own, like, you know, gunas, that's pretty dope to see, you know?
And I'm like, I noticed that what are the movie movies that did well this year, what do they all have in common? And I realized this after watching The Nun.
Pray for the Devil.
Yeah, that movie. Let's just say that movie is not the movie that you expect it to be. What do you expect that to be? You expect it to be a typical exorcism movie. Okay? It's like nuns. There seems to be referencing The Exorcist a lot in the trailers and stuff. You expect it to be that movie, right? That is not what that movie is. And I noticed that all the movies that did poorly than expected this year tend to do that. Thor is not really a Thor movie. It's a Lady Thor and Valkyrie movie.
Yeah, apparently Doctor Strange is in that way too.
Yeah,
they kind of lampoon Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and it's a
Black Widow, Scarlet Witch. Yes,
movie.
Yes, yes.
But and then all the movies that did well are exactly what you expect it to be. Top Gun is a Top Gun movie. Mm-hmm. Spider-Man is a Spider-Man movie. You got 3 Spider-Mans.
Halloween 3, not a Michael Myers movie.
No.
Sadly.
No.
Nope.
And even...
And that's why we think it did poorly.
Yes. Honestly, I like the twists, but a lot of people were like, I didn't sign up for this.
Oh, I like Halloween 3 in the way I like Last Jedi.
Yes.
It's fucking weird and stupid.
It's a Her Majesty's Secret Service.
It does blasphemous things to Michael Myers. Blasphemous, I say. But fun to see, I guess.
But I understand a lot of purists and a lot of people going in thinking it's going to be a certain way did not get that.
You think it's going to be Laurie and Michael at it for like 2 hours, like 10 minutes more like.
At the very least, yeah. But you didn't get that.
You didn't get that.
So I think we're done with getting things we didn't ask for. Going into a movie that you think is about one thing, but it's actually about abortion. Going into why has content been that way for the past decade? You think you're going in to see something, and then the writers actually wanted to write about some other social justice thing, and then they give you that movie instead, but they title
wearing the skin suit of Thor, basically,
and you're just this is not what I asked for. Which, in my opinion, I think that's why Black Adam was bad, okay? Dude, it was exceptionally bad.
God, I love you guys, Critical Drinker, everybody, really great opinions. But guys, let's not lose sight of the ball here. Black Adam was a bad movie.
It's arguably really bad.
It's really bad.
It doesn't even look finished.
Now, we were saying, maybe our standards are ridiculous because we haven't seen Multiverse of Madness. We haven't seen She-Hulk. We haven't seen any of the Mandalorian stuff. We honestly watched Black Adam because one day, that Thursday, I was craving popcorn like a fucking madman. Yeah. So we were like, let's watch Black Adam.
Okay, your money.
And then we just groaned throughout the whole movie.
No, why? It just felt like a mix of different superhero movies bashed together.
You predicted. You had this idea that Black Adam is a Hail Mary movie.
Yes.
It's a movie where WB is trying to salvage whatever it has from all that production with Ezra Miller and the Flashpoint and all of this, tying everything with Henry Cavill and then somehow shoehorning it into Black Adam. It's a way to not scrap what they've already done.
Yes.
Because that's what I think that studio is afraid of most. They're really afraid that they have to kind of get rid of a lot of, I don't know if it's good material, but a lot of really expensive material. But they also have the other side of we've seen that these one-off Joker movies and these one-off Batman, one-off movies are profitable for us and they do well. And I just think this whole... I remember the fervor behind Black Adam, thinking that this is so fake.
Yeah.
This is unbelievably fake. And then I even though it did kind of well, but they were celebrating because it did 60 mil in the box office. The drop off was just like every drop off. There's no sign that movie
has legs.
Has legs. You know?
No one's talking about it anymore.
No one's talking about it anymore.
There's no hype for it. I definitely think the people who... what's interesting is the critics were like us. They think it's awful.
Yeah.
Because it is. It's a bad movie. But the audience score was really high. And I was wondering about that. Because I was like, dude, are people just dumb? They don't know it's a bad movie? And I'm like, no, I don't know about that. I think when you compare it to Thor, when you compare it to Doctor Strange, I don't know. Maybe those movies are better than this movie. Probably they are. But the problem is Black Adam is like classic superhero movie. It
gives the people what they want,
which is a Black Adam movie. Right. There's a lot of Black Adam. There's
a lot of him kicking ass.
Yeah,
you know?
Like even though it's not a good movie, it's what people want, and that it falls in line with my theory that like as long as you give people what you're advertising to them, and you're not trying to sell them something else when they actually go in and watch the movie.
Who gives a shit about what us critics have to say, right? As long as you're making money with the normies, right?
But it's not. Like apparently its budget is
as big as Eternals.
Yes. And it pretty much made similar money to
as Eternals.
Yeah. But like people are like, oh, it's a success. But what I think it is it's not like Warner Brothers and all these studios don't know a failure when they see it. I think they know that they have a backlog of garbage, but they're desperate to not waste money on it, so they're like putting it out.
And they're hoping to just get some kind of return back.
Yeah. Even if it's not like they're not going to make their money back, at least there's hopes that they'll at least break even. Right. Like I think, like what else are you going to do? You have like, when I was saying like it doesn't even look finished, I'm like, you know what? I bet they like slashed budget that should have went to finishing it. And then they were like, you know what? Just... literally bare minimum, just put it out and we'll do our Hollywood fluff pieces and stuff and we'll just make it disappear, because it's pretty much like if we didn't mention it, people aren't talking about it right now. It's pretty much disappeared from pop culture conversations at this point. So like it did what it was supposed to do and made it some money and that's it.
Wasn't a complete failure.
Yeah,
I'd say.
So all of this just means really bad. Like Hollywood is downsizing for the foreseeable decade. And I'm noticing this thing that I think the creator economy is going to be the future, and it's going to be a necessity. Because we're talking about how like all these layoffs, all this news is really, really bad for the laborers, the artists, all the
and let's remind ourselves here. There's a new workforce of laborers that come out every season.
Yeah.
When there's an art school that has people that graduate.
Yeah.
So where are all these people going to go?
Yeah.
And what are all the art schools going to keep saying?
Yeah. Like, oh, you're gonna work in Hollywood.
You're gonna work in Hollywood?
Like
what a joke.
Yeah. So I'm noticing that the only other avenue, because like this is all companies. This isn't just Hollywood. This is like companies everywhere, design firms everywhere. It's the whatchamacallit, the publishing. Publishing is not doing well either. The Penguin, Random House, whatever that is happening. It's a shit show for artists and creatives all across the board. Even if you went in for illustration and you were like, I want to illustrate children's books, I want to do editorial illustration, I want to work for motion design and do commercials, or I want to work in Hollywood, all of that is not as viable today and the next upcoming few years as it was pre-pandemic.
And we're thinking it's not going to get anywhere close to improving until 2025.
Yes.
I think 2025, like halfway through this decade, we're going to see some really cool shit happen.
Yeah.
But boy, we're going to get, it's going to hurt before it gets better, man.
Yeah. So what can artists do? What can creatives do? What can, and this is across the, like I'm noticing even like construction and like all jobs, they're like shrinking. because we're becoming more efficient and just less demand in the marketplace. So what are you gonna do when we live in a first world country where like you can't just get a factory job, you know? And I think everyone is going to have to lean into the creative economy. You're gonna have to learn how to be a media company. You're gonna have to learn how to speak on social media. You're gonna have to learn, whether you like it or not, how to do vertical video and TikToks and YouTube Shorts and all this stuff. So I'm seeing people that I never thought would bend over to like make a TikTok. People I never thought, in animation, especially in Hollywood, people like find like, and they're late. Like when we were doing it, we got to like 200K in no time.
And we thought we were late.
Yeah, because technically we kind of were. But then there are people who are doing it now. They're like struggling just to get to 10K and realizing how irrelevant they are, and that like they're old. And maybe they're not so good looking anymore. Maybe like kids just don't care about cartoons the way they thought they did. Or like reality is hitting them. Maybe they're realizing, oh, I have to Twitch stream. Oh, but people are going to make fun of me for working at Disney. Like, that's all the stuff you have to learn how to cope with and learn how to do. And like, if I were a student now and I could tell younger version of myself, well, like, okay, you can't rely on companies for a job. You can't rely on Hollywood to be there forever. But what you can do is rely on yourself, because you know how hard you can work. And you can, how about you just, sure, go freelance, go try to find a job at a company. But like, what's stopping you from making a YouTube channel or Instagram account and posting reels and like learning how to make money by being your own boss? Because you got time when you're not being hired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
you might as well be doing something productive.
And then even when, let's say you do get a job in Hollywood or whatever, you'll still have this other source of income that's never going away because you worked hard for it. And you're building this up for yourself. No one's going to take that away from you, unlike your job. And so I think, as much as people want to kick and scream and want to be like, oh, like I used to get all this status from Hollywood and all that stuff, I don't know. If it were me, I'd be making a webtoon. I would be making a YouTube channel. I'd be like working TikTok and Instagram like crazy. If I got laid off, I would not be like necessarily working really hard to find my next job.
You wouldn't do 10 tests?
No.
What?
If I had those opportunities come, whatever, I'll do them. But if I don't have those opportunities, I'm gonna use all my time to like make, because this income is passive for the most part. Once you've made all the hard work, it'll work for you, unlike putting in hours at a job. So I just think maybe older people might like roll their eyes and be like, well, you don't do anything to make money. You like, this is like, we used to like work hard and actually do physical things. Like, unfortunately, a lot of those jobs for us and for Gen Z and for the future generation are going away permanently. And unless you learn to adapt to this new weird like internet alternate reality way of making money, then like good luck doing it. Like, things change and we're moving forward as a society, and we need to learn how to adapt to the way we make money. We're recommending the Simpsons episode, season 6, episode 5. It's about Sideshow Bob running for mayor, and it's very relevant to this topic about the election, because let me explain to you, I did not watch Simpsons growing up. I didn't watch anything growing up. So Vincent has been trying to get me to watch,
to culture you,
all the Simpsons episodes.
Yes.
We, for whatever reason, prior to season 6, it's not on Amazon, or we can't buy it for whatever reason. So we started at season 6, and we watched episode 5, and I was like, wow, animation used to be funny. People used to be able to make fun of both sides.
Yeah, man.
People used to be able to laugh at themselves and not get too offended.
It was 1994 this episode came out.
I was 2 years old. I recommend you watch it because it's good. It's an amazing episode. I like the other episodes. My opinion of The Simpsons so far, as someone who's never really watched The Simpsons,
seven episodes in so far.
I am an alien coming down to Earth, and I've watched Simpsons for the first time. I think it's wholesome. I understand a lot of the cultural references now that I'm an adult.
Your epidermis is showing.
Yes. I didn't know why people were saying that to me when I was growing up. And I think it is, for the most part, when they're like referencing other movies or other cultural things that were happening at the time, I go like, I chuckle, I go, that's cute, whatever. But like this particular episode was like sharp. It was like, man, the writers and the artists were
on point.
Yes.
That time.
I don't think they were really referencing anyone or anything else.
It was just like a well-written episode.
Yeah. It was like their own ideas. The funniest part is when they reference All the President's Men to me.
Oh, like Deep Throat.
Deep Throat,
but
yeah.
It's what's his name? Smithers.
Especially because you told me he's closeted.
Yeah, he's into Mr. Burns, which is funny that he's Deep Throat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was like, this is a joke for the adults.
That's a good one.
Especially because we recently watched All the President's Men, and then I was like, wow. Yeah, it's a really good episode.
Yeah.
If you like this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, check out all our other videos over here, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.